we're going to have lots of people coming in late because I am starting early, so try not to be distracted.
You need to charge them.
Yep. And usually the late people. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
Hey, sis.
Are we late people?
That's all right. Save the best for last.
Early late people.
All right, so most of you guys know me. I'm Dr. Yachter. I am the lead author of Celebrity Tonight. Everything I say is based on, nothing I say tonight will be based on opinion. Everything will be substantiated with fact, research, science, and just a dose of reality.
Are you a Republican?
So I am, in the interest of keeping my friends, I will not respond to that question. Most of you guys know where we stand with our faith and our politics. But nonetheless, what are we here to learn tonight? We're here to learn what? How to have a healthy what? How to have a healthy heart. All right, so we are here for that. Next month, we have cancer prevention. And as we always say, when you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start what?
Dying.
You start dying. So many of you guys have been to the Heart Health Workshop tonight. And I always change things up. But, you know, even as I'm going through this, I'm thinking to myself, 98% of you sitting here, if even the things that you've seen, you probably won't remember it. Because I come at you, you know, like machine gun style, and it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. I know, I get it. So I'll try to slow it down tonight. And if you have questions, just shoot them at me. But remember, Denise has to leave early, so you can't hold me up too long. So cholesterol facts. Cholesterol facts. So what you're going to learn tonight is just real quick, so you'll know that high cholesterol in and of itself is what? Not a risk for heart disease. If you have high cholesterol and it worries you, hopefully you'll leave here with a little more peace tonight. Lowering your cholesterol to very low levels, if you think that's where your peace is going to come from, you're going to learn differently, because it doesn't prevent heart attacks just because you get your cholesterol low. And in fact, if you do take your doctor's advice or listen to family and friends and take cholesterol lowering medications or take supplements or do things to lower your cholesterol, whether it's drugs or lifestyle wise, you're going to come up with other problems. So you can't rob from Peter to pay Paul. There's been 44 randomized controlled trial studies that have been done in the last 30 years. Not one of them has shown cardiovascular mortality benefit from taking cholesterol-lowering medications or diet. Nobody has ever lived longer from lowering their cholesterol out of all these 44 studies that have been done over the last 3 decades. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Recent study published, anybody can access this online, shows higher total cholesterol concentration may be associated with better cognitive performance among elderly females. Now I put that up there. Guys, don't think this doesn't apply to you. It applies to all of us because we know how important the brain is when it comes to cholesterol. Most of your brain is made up of what? Cholesterol. Yeah, so what they're finding now is the high serum cholesterol levels in your body are necessary for cognitive function. The background of the study showed that the highest levels of cholesterol in the brain are dependent on what's in the body, and the total amount of serum cholesterol in the blood has a huge impact on your brain. Okay, so when you look at that total cholesterol number, you don't want it to be that low like we've traditionally been told, because otherwise it's at the expense of the brain function and cognitive performance. Here was the conclusion of the study that was published. Said a higher concentration of total cholesterol measured in late life may be a what? Protective factor for cognitive performance among females over 60 years without a history of stroke. Now, this is just the latest study. Many of you guys have seen previous studies that I've shown you that have really expressed the same thing. So here we're starting to see that all along we've been on the right track, right? Everything that we've told you, it's just repeatedly being substantiated. Parkinson's disease, we know that researchers in the Netherlands demonstrated that high blood levels of total cholesterol associated with significantly decreased risk of what? Parkinson's disease. And people with the lowest LDL were at the what, Luther? Highest increased risk for Parkinson's disease. So now we see how low cholesterol can actually precipitate neurodegenerative disorders, which are, in my opinion, the absolute worst. Things like Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease are awful. To me, that's the worst way of spending our senior years. Statin medications increase the risk of death. How is that possible? Well, American Journal of Cardiology did a study. They showed 300 adults diagnosed with heart failure, and they followed them from somewhere 3.5 years to up to 11.5 years. They followed all the study participants. What they found was those who were taking the statin drugs and had the lowest cholesterol had the highest what, Jim? Highest levels of mortality. What does that mean? They died. Yes. On the other hand, people with the higher levels of cholesterol had the what? Lower risk of death. Again, did I say this was from my opinion, or where did that come from? A medical journal, a cardiology journal. So this is important that we understand this. So, this begs the question that I always get. Maybe not from you guys, but people always ask me, Doc, okay, I don't want to take my statins. I don't want the cholesterol. The doctor wants to give me cholesterol. Do you have a supplement I can take that'll help my cholesterol levels? What can I take? How about that red yeast? Can I take that to lower my cholesterol?
That's right.
What's the correct answer?
No.
Don't need to. Yeah. If everything that we just showed you points to the fact that if you lower your cholesterol with drugs or diet or supplements, are you helping yourself or hurting yourself? Yeah. There's other consequences. So you don't want to take anything to lower your cholesterol. I'm going to show you what to look for if you have concern with that. There are 3 tests that you want to look for, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. If what I went over so far isn't a concern in and of itself, maybe this will be important to you. Other reasons to avoid statin drugs: it depletes your body of what? CoQ10, which is a necessary molecule in every cell in your body, which is for energy. And one of the things that we know that statins do is it depletes CoQ10. And this is one of the major reasons why the most common side effects of statin drugs are joint pains. Another study shows it inhibits the production of K2. How many of you guys know what K2 does? You see it when you take it along with vitamin D, right? It helps your body absorb vitamin D, which helps to do what with heart disease? Prevent it, right? So here, this is showing that it inhibits the production of K2. So if you don't have the K2, is that reducing your risk of heart disease or increasing your risk of heart disease? Yeah. So calcification is one of the consequences of that, and that is even more of an imminent factor of a heart attack than high cholesterol. So diabetes studies show that it triples your risk of type 2 diabetes when you take statins for more than 2 years. So again, whether you're on it or not, or you have friends or loved ones, there's so much out there that shows you how to make good decisions with this. So what are the key points? What are the key takeaways? LDL cholesterol. Is that the good cholesterol or is that the bad cholesterol? That's the lousy cholesterol. That's the bad cholesterol. Well, we've been brought up to believe that there's a good and a bad cholesterol. And the reality is that there's no such thing as a bad cholesterol. LDL just means low density lipoprotein, right? And LDL happens to be what shuttles the cholesterol to the neurons in the brain. So we need that. And so what this is showing us is that it plays LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol that they want you to get down, plays a crucial role in brain function. And when you take that LDL down, you're doing it at the expense of cognitive what? Performance, right? It also plays an important part in your what? Immune system. And there are studies which correlate low total cholesterol to a higher risk of cancer, and statin medications as well. lowering LDL may be harmful. Now, I took that from a cardiologist. I kind of copied it, but you and I know that it is harmful. In people over 60, there is no association between LDL cholesterol and heart disease, and those with higher LDL, what? Live longer. Wow. So, higher LDL. So, again, this is contrary, I know, to everything that your doctor tells you, right? So, I know it's confusing, but that's okay. The more you hear it, the more you get familiar with it, the more reinforcement that's there, surely it's going to turn your attention to the more important aspects of your lifestyle and the choices that you can make that will get everything lined up in the right direction for you. Latest research on the optimal level of LDL for longevity in the general population is what? 139? Are you kidding me? Last time I had my blood done was last year, I think. And my LDL was right around there. I think it was 137. My total cholesterol is about 240. Would I be a candidate for a pharmaceutical prescription?
Yeah.
Absolutely, I would. If I went by the current, the current guidelines, which just happens to tip everybody into those narrow specs in terms of where our cholesterol should fall. It's favorable for doctors and drug companies, but it's not ideal. There's no consistent correlation between lowering LDL cholesterol and reduction in heart attacks. People with low total cholesterol have what? Just as many heart attacks as those with high cholesterol. That comes from the Journal of the American Medical Association. That was published in 1994. Just as many people have heart attacks with low cholesterol as high cholesterol. So there's something else going on here, right or right? Okay. The best predictor of your risk of heart attack is not looking at your cholesterol, it's looking at your total cholesterol divided by your HDL. Total cholesterol by HDL. So how do you figure this? When you get your blood results, don't freak out if you see red when you look at the LDL, and don't freak out when you see you're in the red with your total cholesterol. Instead, you have to look at two things. How many things? Two things. You need to look at your total cholesterol number, and you need to look at your HDL. And then you're going to come up with a ratio. Are you following me so far? Yeah. Okay. So let's say, for the sake of argument, Arsenio, you're at 300 is your total cholesterol. Yes, there would be a concern there, right? Okay. So the total cholesterol is 300. Now, your HDL is 100. All right. So now you have a ratio. Now you take your 300 divided by 100, and what do you come up with?
100.
Right? What's the ratio? 300 divided by 100 gives you a ratio of what? Of 3. So if you look over here on the value section here, it'll show you where does 3 come up with. 2.93 is on the good. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Now, if your HDL is low, this is where we run into problems. The HDL is more important than the LDL in terms of depicting whether or not you have a problem. So your HDL is really important. When your HDL goes down, let's say your HDL goes down to 50, right? So now you have your 50, and you're dividing that into your 300. What does that give you? What's the number? Come on, numbers, people. 6, right? Now, if you look on 6, where does that put you? In big trouble. Why? Not because your LDL is so high. Yeah, that high LDL is actually good for you. If you take that down, then you're going to be running into problems. But it's because your what is too low? Your HDL, right? Now, the question is, what can you do to raise your HDL and improve your total cholesterol ratio? What raises HDL? What's good for HDL? Exercise, right? What else? Diet, nutrition, good healthy fats, avocados, almonds, olive oil, all the good healthy fats, right? Reducing your stress. These are all the important things that you could and should be looking at when you see a high total cholesterol number that gives you a concern. When you see that high total cholesterol, right away you should be looking at your what? HDL. Everybody turn to your neighbor and say, HDL! HDL. All right, you're awake. Very good. Okay, so that's the first thing that you need to look for when in doubt. When in doubt, when somebody puts the fear of God into you and says that if you don't take this medication, you're going to have a heart attack or you're in big trouble. That's the first thing you need to look at, number one. Number two, you need to look at your omega-3 index. What is the omega-3 index? That's the amount of EPA in the red blood cell membrane. Of all cells in your body, the red blood cells, what are the cell membranes made up of?
Fat.
Fat, very good. They're made up of what? Fat. So the primary EPA, the source of which comes from what? Fish oils, right? Extra virgin olive oil, all these good healthy oils. Now, you have to have lots of those good oils, not only to bring your HDL up, but also to have the membranes functioning properly. So the good stuff can get in, so the bad stuff can get out. If you are deficient in that number, because that cell membrane should be somewhere between 8 and 12%. That's the desirable range. Can everybody see that? If you're somewhere between 8 and 12%, you have a very low risk of heart disease, Alzheimer's, or eye disease. Your omega-3 index is one of the leading predictors of heart disease. Did you know that? No. Okay, so that's important. So you need to be looking at where that number is. 8% or higher is ideal. In the United States, most people are at 4%. That's the highest risk zone. And that translates to a 90% higher risk of sudden cardiac death. So, when you have this done in our office, raise your hand if you've had this done in our office. Right. And I've gone over it with you, right? So, for most of you, you are probably somewhere between 4 and 5%. That's where I see most of my patients come in, because a lot of our patients have been to workshops. They're already deploying, good lifestyle changes. They're already starting to incorporate a lot of these things. So we don't typically see it down at 4%. Most of our patients probably 5-6%. That means you still have work to do. And what do you have to do to improve on this? Start adding what? More EPA. What are good EPA sources? I already said some of it. What?
Exercise.
EPA sources.
Fat sources.
Fat sources, yeah. What are they?
Good fat. Good fat.
Olive oil, very good. What else? Avocados. Fish, salmon, yeah. Yeah, that's where you're going to get your biggest bang for the buck. The fish, the sardines, stuff like that. So if you haven't had this done, and you're here tonight because obviously you want to learn the most important aspects of preventing heart problems, this is something that should be on your radar, because your medical doctor will not do this. They don't do this. It's not in the typical lab blood draw that they do. So this is a finger prick blood test. We do this in the office. Very simple. We do it for all of our maintenance patients. Automatically, it's part of your wellness plan. But if you haven't had it done or you'd like to have it done, it's very simple. It's very easy to do. We can make you an appointment before you leave tonight. Just let them know. Never guess with this. This is an easy fix, and it can prevent a lot of problems. Okay, so I gave you 2 already, right? I gave you 2 already. You got your cholesterol ratio. You got your omega-3. What's the third one? C, reactive protein. C what? C, reactive protein, which in short is CRP. Turn to your neighbor, say CRP. CRP. All right, you're still awake. That's a good sign. So, CRP is a measure of damage to the heart muscle. And normally they'll look at that when somebody has had a myocardial infarction, a heart attack, and that's how they diagnose it, by looking at that in the blood. But it's also a leading indicator of systemic inflammation. And so we know from the Journal of the New England Journal of Medicine in 2005, they put out a study and they said that inflammation is an independent risk factor for heart disease that is what? Much stronger than any measure of cholesterol. So that's why, again, we should be less concerned with the cholesterol and more concerned with how much inflammation you got going on, right? And what can cause inflammation? Things that we eat. How about stress? Can stress cause inflammation? You better believe it, yeah. So this is what we need to be concerned with, because you can have, here's what they found in the study. people with low CRP had fewer heart attacks no matter what their LDL cholesterol was. Didn't matter how high it was, they had fewer heart attacks if they had low inflammation in their body. Got that? And conversely, they had more heart attacks if their CRP was elevated, irregardless of their LDL cholesterol. So what's the most important thing that you need to be concerned with as far as heart health, preventing a heart attack? Not just that, but also preventing cancer, Alzheimer's disease, any degenerative disease. All at the root of that, which drives it, is what? Inflammation, yeah. So are we getting somewhere? Okay. Blood pressure. Now this, obviously, we don't want to play around with because, you know, if you're under severe stress, if your blood pressure's out of control and you don't do something to control it, then stroke sometimes is an unfortunate part of reality. So we have, you know, some people that are on blood pressure meds, and I don't tell you to stop taking your blood pressure meds. I won't do that. That's a real thing. Stress is a real thing. I can't take your stress away. But with cholesterol medication, I mean, I've said this before. I'm not afraid to say it again. You could walk out of here, stop taking that cold turkey, and there's not one shred of side effect that you would ever have to be worried about. You really have side benefits of actually living longer. Not so much the case with your blood pressure meds, right? So as you get older, though, you do understand that your blood pressure does go up naturally. Your blood vessels become more rigid. Your heart has to work a little bit harder to get it out through the blood vessels. So it's normal for it. If you look here from the ages of 49 to 60, 44 to 64, you see the systolic and the diastolic go up. So if you go on your regular doctor's visit and you're at 130 over 90, that's still within normal limits. If you're at 140 over 90, it's still somewhat within normal limits. And honestly, nothing that shouldn't be able to be helped with regular exercise, right? Massage, deep breathing, adjustments, prayer, meditation, all these things. But do most people do that? Probably not. You know, the easier fix is taking drugs. That's why drug companies are so profitable, because they know they prey on our weakness. They're like, oh, they're stupid humans. They can't do the right things. That's what they think. They know that, and that's why medical doctors don't get more than 4 hours of nutrition all throughout medical school. Did you know that?
Wow.
What's the reason why? Because they know people aren't strong enough or smart enough intellectually. That's their mindset. We're not going to waste our time on that because people can't do that. They can't clean up their lifestyle. They're not capable of that. That's their thinking. I don't think that's the case. Do you? I think we can all do these things, and we can be in better control of our health. So exercise. How much should you be exercising every week? There's the number right there. What does it say? 150 to 300 minutes per week. That's not terrible, is it? You know, if you go for a brisk walk every day for 30 minutes, what does that add up to? Do it 5 days a week for 30 minutes. What does that add up to? 150 right there. Now, I've told you a few other times, other workshops like the Alzheimer's workshop, what they're finding now, all the studies coming out, brisk walking is great, but nothing, minute for minute, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, nothing beats resistance training. They are finding now, as far as optimizing your genetic potential, shutting off the bad genes, preventing Alzheimer's, preventing falls, your greatest quality of life as you move into your senior years is going to be had by resistance training. I'm not saying, brisk walking is not a good thing. I'll do that a couple of times a week. But I will weightlift at least 4 days a week, and I love brisk walking, but I never feel better than after I get done with a weightlifting workout. And I'm not saying you got to push a lot of weight. Just get yourself some heavy hands and make sure that your body is moving. When your body moves, your brain works, right? And you got to keep those two working together. The well-known benefits of exercise, we know it helps to lower your blood pressure, but that's really not the thing that prevents heart disease or heart attacks. You know what the number one thing is that prevents the heart attacks and heart disease from exercises? It's related to that word stress. Yeah, stress. When you exercise, it helps you manage your stress. And if you do that, you're lowering your risk of heart disease. There are no studies that connect actually exercising to what it does directly to the heart. It all comes from stress management. So this is what causes the clogging of the arteries. How many of you have heard reports from people and doctors, oh, they put a stent in, they had to do this, they had to do that. The artery was like 99% blocked. They caught it right in the nick of time. We hear all these tall tales, and you know what? Cardiologists, when you read their books and you listen to their interviews, you know, say that's hardly ever the case. That's hardly ever the case. You know, your body's smart. It grows all these other blood vessels to compensate and bring oxygen and nutrients when vessels get narrowed. And what narrows the vessel is really these formations of these clots, which comes from inflammation. It's not from cholesterol, it's from inflammation, right? So stress causes your blood sugar to go up, right? What else does it cause? Inflammation. And it causes something called increased fibrin, which is a clotting protein. And this is what connects ultra marathoners and people who do Ironman to have high calcification in their arteries. They have just as many heart attacks as people who don't exercise. Did you know that? Yeah. It's because of the stress that they put their heart through that it causes this clotting protein. And what happens is when you and I go through life and we wake up on a Monday morning and we get a call from the boss and whoo, we fly off the handle, right? Or it's Christmas, or you know, early in the morning. This is when heart attacks happen, because there's psychological stress that occurs, which causes a sudden rupture of that clot. And this is where we run into the blockage. The actual blockage happens, and it's all tied back to what? Stress, right? Major factors for stress are work and relationships, right? Reducing stress can have a huge impact on the prevention and management of all heart disease, and really all disease. So it's pretty simple. What is the cure for stress? Peace, right? There's no stress where there's peace, just like there's no darkness where there's light. And so I know where my peace is found. Where's your peace found? The Bible says in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7, be careful of nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And the peace of God, where does peace come from? Who does peace come from? Yeah. It doesn't come from a massage. It doesn't come from Facebook. It doesn't come from your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your friend or anything outside in. Or the fancy car we drive or the house we live in. No, that's all fleeting. That's all temporal. Peace comes from inside, where the Holy Spirit lives inside of us. And you know what? You cannot have peace from God until you have peace with God. And the Bible says the only way to have peace with God is to be born again. Is to accept the Son, Jesus Christ, as your Lord and Savior. And if you try to do it on your own terms, like I have, you just drag that out. And then you wake up one day and you're like, I still have more stress. I'm giving myself stress because I'm trying to do it my own way. And you can't do it your own way. There's only one way. There's only one way to go to the Father, and it's through the Son. So that's my antidote for stress. I can help you physically, but it's all for naught if you can't make the connection spiritually, because it all comes from the inside out, right? So sleep is important also, because if you're sleep deprived or you don't get good sleep, there are direct connections to heart disease, heart attacks, inflammation, coronary artery disease, and stroke. So we have to look at good sleep habits. We need, almost every study that you'll see tells you need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours every night. I don't know how some people can sleep 9 hours unless you're a teenager or a child. Some of you maybe can do it if you need to, if you have to catch up. I mean, probably most of us in here, we're lucky if we could sleep 7 hours, right? Yeah. So, but to make it a priority and to have these routines that actually get you ready. Hi, Karina. I got a seat up right here for you, right up in the front. Come on in. Consistent schedule. So, in other words, if you regularly, let's say you go to bed at 10:30 every night, right? You know it's time every night. How many of you guys have like a bedtime? You know like when that time is. It's 10 or 11 o'clock, right? And then Friday night comes and you're like, woohoo, party time. I'm going to stay up until 12, 1 o'clock. I'm going to stay on Netflix and just binge watch. And then you go to sleep like 2 hours later. And then what happens the next day? Do you sleep an extra 2 hours? No. What happens? Your body gets you right up. And how is your mental clarity that next day? No bueno. Not good at all. Because you missed out on the REM sleep, the good quality deep sleep that you need, that REM sleep that cycles all the garbage out and gets the toxins out of your brain. You don't get that until the wee hours of the late or early morning, like right before you get up. So like if I'm getting up at 5 o'clock, most of my REM sleep is happening somewhere around 4 a.m. And so if you cut your sleep short, if you don't get all the sleep that you need, you're cutting your REM sleep more than likely, and that's the most important part for the brain to detoxify. And if that accumulates, that's what they show precipitates dementia and Alzheimer's disease also. So we're talking about heart disease, but it's important for really all aspects of your health, right? Cool, dark room. Every study shows your room needs to be cold. Your room needs to be cold. It needs to be cave-like. It needs to be dark. It needs to be cold. Should be a good 72 degrees. And if it's too cold, put an extra blanket on. But you really, what's going to happen is you're going to kick the covers off at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning because that's the maximum time for your body temperature to peak. And then you're going to wish you did turn the temperature down. So make sure that you're prepared and that you do it right. For goodness sake, get off your phone, get off your iPad, because that LED light, even from the TV, messes with your melatonin window. How many of you guys know what melatonin is? They give you melatonin pills to help you fall asleep. Well, your body makes melatonin naturally in the evening time to get you ready for bed. So normally somewhere around 7, 7:30, your melatonin levels rise naturally. Except if you got that LED light going in your eyeballs, then you're scrambling your brain, tricking it into thinking that it's morning. So you're messing up your melatonin window. And for that reason, you can't get into a good, deep level wave of sleep, the deeper layers of sleep that we need to achieve. So we need to start winding down. Be conscious of that. If you don't have those blue blocker glasses, how many of you guys have those blue blocker glasses? When I started wearing those, like at 7 o'clock, whether I'm watching TV or I'm on my home care, when I'm on my home care, I like to scroll through Facebook and I'll check in with some of you guys and I'll read some of your stuff. But I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get like REM sleep until I started wearing those blue blockers. Because I'm on my home care at 9 o'clock at night, right before I go to sleep. And I'm like this for 20 minutes scrolling, letting that LED just jam into my eyeballs. And when I fixed that, guess what happened? My REM sleep went up, shot up, skyrocketed. So I would strongly recommend that if you're having any trouble with your sleep, getting deep sleep, getting REM sleep, look into that. They're really cheap. You can get them on Amazon, and they work. It'll help you sleep better. No caffeine after 1 o'clock. If you're still drinking coffee late in the afternoon, caffeinated coffee, that is a source of a problem for good sleep. No food 2 to 3 hours before bed. Your body, when it's sleeping, should not be digesting food. Right or right? Right. Yeah. So if you eat a heavy meal for dinner, you need at least 3 hours before you hit the sack. Exercise and sauna is actually good to help you sleep. And then one other thing is magnesium threonate. Everybody say magnesium threonate. Magnesium threonate. Now, how many of you have heard of magnesium before? Raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Okay. How many of you heard of threonate? Probably haven't heard of that. You've heard of citrate, you've heard of malate, which are different forms of magnesium, and people take this stuff to try to sleep better, but it doesn't work because it won't cross the blood-brain barrier. The only form of magnesium which actually helps with sleep is the threonate because it's the only form that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And so if it's something that you're challenged with and you wanted to try this, that's something that can help you also. My patients have asked me from time to time, I recommend this. I can't remember the last time somebody tried this and they didn't see an improvement with it. It comes in a powder form, it's very tasty. You just put it in a little bit of water 45 minutes before you go to sleep. Ask them up front before you leave. It'll be on sale tonight. It's called Neuromag. It's not in that. It's not in the supplement suite. But you still get 15% off, like we always do. But it was worth mentioning because it has to do with sleep. So that's why I'm mentioning it. What are 5 things that can add 10 years to your life expectancy according to the American Heart Association? What are 5 things? What did we say? Managing stress, not smoking, controlling blood sugar, controlling blood pressure, and what's the last one? Controlling your weight. Okay, that's not a new one. We know that. That's important. But losing 10 pounds doubles your chances of normalizing your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is too high and the doctor tells you to take the medication, you don't want to, you don't like the side effects, lose 10 pounds. You're doubling your chances of bringing it into normal range. 22-pound weight loss reduces your heart attack risk by 75%. That's a big deal, right? It improves your cholesterol, it lowers your triglycerides, it lowers your A1C, and can actually reverse type 2 diabetes. You know, I mean, almost everybody today knows that you can reverse type 2 diabetes, right? Everybody here knows that. And most people out in the world are learning that as well. It's a real thing. You just have to learn what to do. And it also improves your thyroid function. Now, some of you may know this. Vivette, you did this, right? You did this program. I put over 2,300 people through this program. It's not just weight loss. It's really fat loss. It's geared toward making sure that you lose body fat and you maintain muscle and water. And it also fixes your metabolism. So you see your metabolic age dropping, and that shows us that your metabolism is regaining function. And the most important part about that is that after you lose the weight, you don't gain it back. More importantly, it shows us an improvement in something called visceral fat, which is the fat around your what? Your organs, your liver. So it actually points to fatty liver disease. And we help people get out of the danger zone with that also with this program. So it's not simply just a weight loss program, although we do guarantee you lose at least 15 pounds. The most important thing that you see are all the health metrics that improve along with it. So, this one guy here.
Yes.
I'm Tom Brady. I've been, today's the 16th of April. I've been on the program my 43rd day now. I lost a total of 25 pounds, and I've cut my insulin down to under a third of what I was taking.
Awesome.
So I'm going in the right direction. The program works.
Thank you. So proud of you. Thank you.
So if you're here and it's something that you know you need help with or you've been thinking about, the way the program is, we give you a manual. It shows you what to eat, what not to eat. There's a journal so that you can make sure that you're keeping track of what you're supposed to be doing. We watch you, you make appointments, you do follow-up appointments. You stand on a special scale which shows us your body composition, and that's what we track. Every couple of weeks when you come back, you don't just get away into looking at your body weight. We're looking at your body fat mass, your muscle mass, your water, your metabolism, your visceral fat, and you can see us chart the graph as these numbers move into the right direction. So it's a whole program, and we give you a guarantee with it. All the supplements are included. If this is something that you are curious about or you may be interested in, what I would recommend is make an appointment for the body composition analysis. And this way you can find out if it's a good fit for you, if you're a candidate for the program. Come on up, Rosita. You got a couple of seats here. That's fine. Yeah. Come on. So when you stand on the scale, it basically gives us a printout of all these things. And that's okay. And so if you're curious to see what that looks like, if you want to see what your body fat percentage is, your visceral fat, your body mass index, all these are important predictors of not just fatty liver disease, but heart disease and cancer. So if you wanted to get the weigh-in, normally it's $99 for the special for the workshop. It's It's only $37. Ask Deborah on the way out. She'll make the appointment. She'll do the body composition analysis. She'll get the printout. I'll go over it with you, and I'll tell you from there what you could or should do. All right. So, question. If you eat foods that are high in cholesterol, can it clog your arteries like that picture there? Raise your hand if you say no. Raise your hand if you say yes. Raise your hand if you don't care. Okay.
The so-called experts say yes, but of course,
The experts say
we're
yes.
learning some different things
We're
now,
learning
aren't
different.
we?
Yes, we are. Yes. So coronary artery disease has more to do with what?
Inflammation.
And clotting. Yeah, it's driven more by the metabolic risk factors. So when your sugar goes up, when you're doing things that inflame the arteries, that's what's driving it, not the cholesterol. You saw one of the first slides that I showed you was a study that showed serum cholesterol. What's serum cholesterol? The cholesterol, the total cholesterol in your blood is important for your what? Brain. So we know that God doesn't make junk. That's there for a reason. So if you look at everything on the left, it'll show you what causes that artery to be inflamed and swell shut and cause a heart attack. What do you see? What do you see on the left? Comfort foods, yeah. That drives inflammation, right? Yeah, you see, starting with all the bad vegetable oils. This is a worse problem than carbs. That drives inflammation and toxins at the surface of the cell, your brain. So if you look at that, hydrogenated oils, rancid vegetable oils, trans fats, corn oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil. You want to try to stay as far away from that as you possibly can. And what's the only way you're going to know if you're getting that in is by reading the labels. Yeah, very good. So got to read the labels. Other than that, you kind of know what you should not be eating. And then you have all the white stuff there, the white pasta, white rice. You got your breads. You know what? Even the brown stuff too. Even the brown bread. Even if it's wheat bread, it's not the same today. You know, it's genetically modified, cross hybridization. It's not the way it used to be. The ancient grains are not today's grains, and it just drives inflammation. It's just not good for you. Then you have your juices, and then you have your diet sodas, and your sugar substitutes, which are worse than sugar. Did you know that? Okay, thank goodness you guys know. Because, they show it causes diabetes faster than regular sugar. You cannot outsmart the intelligence that God made your body with. So when you look at everything on the right, we want to make the shift from left to right. What does that mean? From the poor diet, the standard American diet, to a good diet, which could be a Mediterranean diet or a paleo diet. What do you see? What do you not see in that picture right there? Carbs. The carbs, the breads, the pasta, the potatoes. So what do you see? You see your protein sources. You see your good fats. You see your low sugar fruits. So I'm not going to get into all the specifics of that. Everybody here has access to it. If you go on the internet, just look up Mediterranean diet or paleo diet. Proven, long-term studies, hundreds of thousands of people, decades of research, proven that it helps prevent heart disease. It lowers inflammation in your body. Right?
Right.
Okay. So just getting back to basics, and the reason why is because that's what prevents heart disease, by lowering inflammation. How about if we lower our cholesterol with a low saturated fat diet? Smart balance. How about some of these, margarines? Will that help prevent heart disease? No. 2 randomized studies actually revealed an increase in death rates and heart attacks in patients who significantly decreased their cholesterol with replacing saturated fat with polyunsaturated fat. Studies actually show the opposite. The more saturated fat you eat, the lower your risk of heart disease. It's just the opposite. Studies of heart disease patients who were advised to reduce their saturated fat intake resulted in no reduction in their death rates, heart attack, or stroke. So, as far as your eggs, your bacon, your red meats, if you can eat organic and if you can get grass-fed, you're fine. I wouldn't do it every day, but there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the meat. It's not the meat. It's what we do to the meat. It's not what you eat, it's what you ate. Right? It's not the meat that you're eating. It's like, what did the cow eat? The cow didn't eat grass. It ate grain pellets. It's not the fish that's bad. What are they feeding the fish? Grain pellets, right? So we have to make better choices. American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Look, 340,000 people followed from 5 to 23 years. What did they show? The risk for heart disease was 19% lower in the group that consumed the what? Highest amount of saturated fat. Yeah. Have at it, guys. Have at it. Just make sure that you make the good choices. Get the healthy stuff. Grass-fed, right? Organic, free range. And you'll be fine. Buy your own cow. I like that. Let me know how it goes. So, in your handout, there's a supplement suite, and these are the most common supplements that we recommend for people who have heart health needs, or just want to be preventative. Like this one, Ultraflex Cardio. We also have one that we use from Thorne. It's called Perfusia. They both do the same thing. And it has something called L-arginine, which is an amino acid, which is the precursor for nitric oxide. Your body makes nitric oxide to contract smooth muscle. Do you know where there's smooth muscle, Chris? You know where it is? It's inside the arteries. Yeah. So when that smooth muscle contracts, guess what the artery does? Woo! It opens up. And what does that do to your blood pressure? Helps what? Bring it down. And what does that do? It makes more room in the arteries. If there is inflammation and plaquing, it helps to reduce that, right? It helps to reduce the risk. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's why this is a heart healthy supplement. CoQ10, everybody kind of knows that if you take a statin medication and your doctor didn't tell you to take CoQ10, you may wonder if you have the right doctor. Like every cardiologist knows, you should be taking CoQ10 if you're on a statin med. Even if not, this is something that will support energy in every cell in your body. So it helps with the support of regenerating healthy cells in every organ, every tissue. EPA, your fish oils, we talked about that. Everybody we know takes a fish oil capsule. Everybody should be taking one of these. The only question is, how much do you take? Do you take 1 a day, 2 a day, 4 a day? And the only way to know is to not guess, but what? Test. You should be, the number of EPA capsules that you take to reduce inflammation, prevent heart disease, to prevent dementia, whatever it is, it shouldn't be by what it says on the bottle. It should be by what your test shows, right? So if you had a high C-reactive protein, Jim, if your CRP was off the charts, that's like a red flag, man. If you're just taking 1 a day, what is that doing? Nothing. You probably need to take like 4 a day. You know, some people could get away with 1 a day, but if you're just taking it for the sake of taking it, you're guessing. And that's why we take the finger prick blood test. Many of you are already on a therapeutic dosage, and when we retest, we're going to see all those numbers come down, and then you don't have to take 4 a day. And you go back to taking 1 or 2 a day. Right, Vivian? Very simple. So it's the same thing with your omega-3 index. If your omega-3 index is in normal range, you can take 1 a day, not a problem. If you're at 4, is 1 a day going to work for you? If you've been taking 1 a day, and your omega index is at 4, and you're at the highest possible risk, 90% increased risk for sudden cardiac death, do you just keep taking 1 a day? Because the bottle says that? No. So that's why these tests are so important. Does that make sense to everybody? And then we can get the clinical outcome that we want from a preventative standpoint. And then your vitamin D. Obviously, everybody knows why vitamin D is so important for your immune system, for heart health. And fortunately, when you have the C-reactive protein test that we do, the finger prick blood test, part of it is the vitamin D that goes with it. And then we can see also, same type of thing. Everybody takes 5,000 international units, and everybody's deficient in vitamin D. We know it doesn't work. You have to have a test. And unfortunately, if your medical doctor interprets the test and they see 30, they're going to tell you it's normal, and that's not ideal. To prevent 50% of all the cancers that people get diagnosed with, it needs to be at 70. And if you're taking 5,000 international units or you're at 30, you're never going to get to 70. unless you know the right dosage to take. So that's why these tests are so important, and that's why we always recommend them to you. So 15% off whatever supplements that you need there that has a green label. It's tonight only. You guys know that we do that to try to help you out, make application with everything that you're learning tonight. Right or right?
Right.
All right. Right or right. So the last thing it's probably the most important part of everything to prevent heart disease and really all disease is making sure that you have good balance with your autonomic nervous system. Everybody say autonomic.
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 When you say autonomic, I want you to think automatic. That's the part of your nervous system that's not voluntary. Like, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I am healthy.
I am healthy.
I am happy.
I am happy.
Raise your left hand. I am terrific.
I'm terrific.
Woohoo! Okay. Okay. So that's voluntary nervous control. The involuntary part is what's making your heart beat right now. Your lungs breathe. Your stomach's digesting food. What happens when you go to sleep? All these functions continue to work. That's under something called the autonomic nervous system. Now, one part of your autonomic nervous system is the sympathetic. Everybody say sympathetic.
Sympathetic.
Sympathetic. That's the fight or flight. That part of your nervous system raises your respiration rate, your heart rate. It shuts down digestion. It contracts your bladder, dries up your eyes, and now you have. That's the part for survival. That's the fight or flight part, right? Like if a bear or a lion is chasing you, you're fleeing for your life. All that kicks into high gear without you having to think about it to save your life. The other side is the parasympathetic, which is the rest, digest, repair, healing. That slows down digestion. It slows your respiration. It slows your heart rate. Which side do you think is overactive or dominant in our society today because of stress? Sympathetic, right. Most people are sympathetic dominant. In fact, studies show 75% of all heart attacks occur in sympathetic dominant nervous system stress. Did you know that? So this is really important. The literal connection between your autonomic nervous system and your heart and your lungs, your cardiovascular system, the literal connection is something called your vagus nerve. Your what?
Vagus
Your
nerve.
vagus nerve. So your vagus nerve, in Latin, vagus means wanderer, comes right off the front here of the first cervical vertebrae, comes down, and it goes down to innervate your heart, your diaphragm, your stomach, every organ in your body is innervated by your vagus nerve, which comes right off in front of that first cervical vertebrae, which is called the atlas. Very good. Atlas, Atlas. Sing it for me, too. So here's the deal. If you're high sympathetic dominant, if you're an individual, maybe it's not you, maybe you know somebody, maybe it's one of your family members, friends, they're suffering with irritable bowel syndrome, poor sleep, anxiety, irritability, fibromyalgia, excessive sweating, manic depressive, focus problems, neurodevelopmental disorders. Studies show this is a sympathetic dominant condition, autonomic nervous system out of balance. For people who are low parasympathetic, where they're weaker on this side, not enough stimulus, constipation, depression, hormonal issues, chronic fatigue, thyroid, adrenal fatigue, brain fog, mood issues, memory loss. So when you look at this, you could see that there's a developing body of evidence and research that now physicians, doctors all across the world are actually pursuing. They're recognizing that autonomic imbalance has to happen first, and then disease develops after. Did you catch that? You're with me so far? So one of the ways that can track this and determine that is heart rate variability. What is heart rate variability? It's how variable or how flexible your heart is. So when we do that here for you in the office, we put that thing on your ear, we tell you to breathe for 2 minutes, and what does it do? It tracks your heart rate variability. Now, when you have low heart rate variability, what does that mean? It means you're in fight or flight. It means your nervous system is rigid. It means it's inflexible. It cannot adapt to its environment normally under the stress that is happening. Now, when you have high heart rate variability, then you're in the rest and digest. Your nervous system is flexible, it's adaptable, it can adapt to its environment. And because of that, you can adapt to stress better. And because of that, your risk of heart attack goes down, cancer, stroke. You get sick less often, less colds. So does everybody understand you have to have a good balance of that what? That autonomic nervous system. Are you with me so far? And what did I just say can tell us whether you're not in balance? Which test? Heart rate variability. That's one of them, right? Now do you understand why we do that? Every progress evaluation, we do that for you. Because it's giving us an idea of your health status. Here's a study, medical literature review. Patients with irritable bowel syndrome appear to experience symptoms that may be the result of changes in the what? Autonomic nervous system function. Here's another one in Psychiatry Journal. Studies indicate that patients with depression and anxiety disorders exhibit abnormally low what? Heart rate variability. So you can see how it precipitates disease. You can tell which way somebody is heading. Fibromyalgia patients show more heart rate variability aberrances and indicates sympathetic activity. Patients suffering from major depressive disorders show profound autonomic dysfunction. Wow. What does this all have to do with your what? Your nervous system. What do we give you chiropractic care for? Your what? Your nervous system. You mean that crick in my back and my neck that you're taking care of is helping all this also? Wow. 10 ways to improve your vagal tone. So your autonomic nervous system depends on that vagus nerve. When the vagus nerve is not firing correctly, it's under stress, the tone changes. You ever seen, like, on a musical instrument, let's say a guitar, when you're tuning a guitar, you turn the little, you turn the tune thing, whatever it is, the key, right? You turn it, and you the more you tighten it, what does it change? It changes the tone. Stress changes the tone of your vagus nerve. And as a result of that, it throws out of balance your autonomic nervous system. So, what can you do to enhance and restore normal vagal tone to restore the balance to your autonomic nervous system? What can you do? Positive social relationships. Yeah, being around people. What did they do when they locked us down during COVID? Just the opposite, right? It caused more stress. It caused more autonomic balance. Now you know why people were depressed. Why they were drinking more drugs, more suicides, more divorces. Cold. You know, people are doing cold plunges. They're throwing, like, when you put cold water on your face. This enhances vagal tone. What else? Prayer, singing, chanting, humming, massage, laughter, yoga and Tai Chi, breathing deeply. Everybody take a deep breath. You have 7 minutes. Exercise. I'm not going to have you get up and exercise. And chiropractic. Wow, how's that? How is that possible to restore your autonomic balance? Studies show, this is from Journal of Manipulative and Physiologic Therapeutics, they showed that a healthy autonomic nervous system balance occurred after the correction of what? Vertebral subluxation. What did they use to determine that? HRV analysis. This is why I do heart rate variability checks on your progress evaluations to look at the health of your nervous system. So what is vertebral subluxation? It's a misalignment of the spinal cord or the column, which negatively affects neurophysiological function. Where is the most common subluxation found? Here, in the neck, the atlas. Why? Because it has the least amount of room for the brainstem and the nerves that exit there. As you go further down in your spine, the mid-back, the lower back, the nerve channels are much bigger. They're much less likely to pinch the nerves. Most of the time that happens from discs pushing on them. But up here, this is true nerve impingement and spinal cord compression on the brainstem. Causes changes to your brain. It decreases the cerebral cortex from functioning properly. The studies have shown an increase in prefrontal cortex function as much as 20% after one chiropractic adjustment. Did you know that? Yeah. It changes the autonomic nervous system. It increases inflammation when you have subluxation. Subluxation causes inflammation. It decreases brainstem blood flow. You see that red little squiggly worm that's going through that top bone there? Can everybody see that? That's called the vertebro-basilar artery. I won't make you repeat that. But basically, that's for the blood supply to get to the brain, it has to go through that one bone up there, which is called the what? Atlas. So when my dad dove into the lake at 17 years old and his head hit a cast iron tub, guess what bone shifted out of alignment? Atlas. Guess what artery it kinked? Vertebro-basilar artery. So guess what he woke up with 2 weeks later? Headaches, migraines. Did they get the bone back into normal position? No. They just treated the effects. They gave him Tylenol, Furanol, and I mean he left the infirmary on 5 different medications. And the next 4 decades were miserable for him. Until he got an adjustment. And that's what I adjusted. That's why he's never had headaches since then. How many people walk around with that? From impacts, injuries, learning to walk, kids fall thousands of times. This is what causes it. It's not just physical stress, what else? Chemical stress, toxins, mental stress. This is what causes the vertebrae to shift out of normal position and causes autonomic imbalance. Chiropractic and vagal tone, here's a study from Journal of Chiropractic Medicine. Neck adjustments had a what? Parasympathetic. Which side of the equation was that? The what? Rest and digest. Slows down your heart rate, respiration, digestion. How many of you guys watched the videos that were playing the last couple of weeks that showed the medical doctor at the University of Chicago School of Hypertension showing in their study from one adjustment the blood pressure dropped an average of 17 points. One adjustment. Yeah, it's a real thing. Why? It's because it's affecting what? The autonomic nervous system. That's how chiropractic helps you stay out of doctor's offices, off of medication, out of hospitals. It is true risk reduction when you're under lifetime chiropractic wellness care. That's why I tell you to stay under care for the rest of your life. That's why you consider that. Not because you want to stay out of pain, although it is a good bonus, side benefit, but look at what we're talking about. Did you see all those diseases? Fibromyalgia, depression, anxiety. It reduces inflammation, right? Here, it's a study. Journal of Manipulative Physiologic Therapeutics. Chiropractic and decreased inflammation. In this study, the outcome was published saying reduction of what? Pro-inflammatory cytokine secretion. Cytokines are what drive inflammation. And this is a big thing in terms of why people actually feel better after their adjustments. Is that making sense? Okay, so the other way we can measure vagal tone and autonomic nervous system is through what? The scans. Yeah. So you guys know this, that skin temperature is controlled by the blood vessels at the surface of the skin. What controls the blood vessels at the surface of the skin? The autonomic nervous system, right? And what do you think subluxation does to the ability of that regulation of the blood vessels at the surface of the skin? It interferes with it. So when we see significant temperature differentials from one side to the other, that's an anomaly, that's an abnormality, and that's what the study showed. That skin temperature differentials are associated with vertebral subluxation and a quantifiable indicator of autonomic dysfunction. That's why we utilize that to see how you're progressing. Does that make sense? Turn to your neighbor and say, wow! Wow. I just woke for, I'm sorry. We're almost done. So this is a nerve system chart. Many of you guys have seen this before, but what you probably didn't know is at the top it says this. The nervous system controls and coordinates all organs and structures of the human body. It comes from Gray's Anatomy, which is in every medical textbook. Misalignments of spinal vertebrae and discs may cause irritation to the nervous system, which could affect structures and organs and functions listed in the areas below. Possible symptoms. So what do you see up there? Headaches, nervousness, insomnia, head colds, the immune system, right? High blood pressure, nervous breakdowns, which is depression, anxiety, right? Forgetfulness, tiredness, dizziness. Aren't all of those things... Does that sound familiar? Which side was that? The parasympathetic or the sympathetic? The sympathetic, right? And what did they say the adjustment affects? The parasympathetic. That's why I give you this chart, guys, so you can look at these symptoms and you can know. If somebody's got shortness of breath, they can't sleep, this and that, what's the first thing that you should be thinking, Edna? Wow, I wonder if they have subluxation. I'll bet you that chiropractic care can help them. I'll bet you they'll do better after an adjustment, right? Have you ever heard of a person or a case where somebody getting adjusted and not being healthier after they've had interference removed from their nervous system? Is that even possible? How is that possible? For you to have interference removed from your nervous system functions better, more healthy, in a balanced fashion, and you're less healthy? Does that make any sense at all? It's impossible. It's a law that somebody would only get healthier if they had subluxations corrected. Happens 100% of the time. Like if I open my hands, which way is this remote going to go? Up? Down? Sometimes, maybe. 25% of the time? 100% of the time. Every time I adjust you, my hands leave your spine, you get up off the table, 100% of the time. Your power is on. I can tell you confidently that you're getting off that table and out of this office, you're leaving healthier than you walked in. Right? You guys know that. Now you know why. Because you know what I know now. And because you know what I know, you do what I do. I'm getting adjusted for the rest of my life. My kids have been adjusted since the day they were born.
So, please state your name and rank. So, James, you've had some great results here in the office. You've only been under care, 4 or 5 weeks or so, and so what were some of the issues that you came in with?
I came in with high blood pressure, constant headaches, lower back pain, and just felt blah.
So how are things coming along for you since you've been getting adjusted in the office?
I feel great. No more headaches. I'm off my blood pressure medicine, and my back is feeling really good.
Awesome.
And I'm actually exercising.
That's good. So life is better.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
Okay, so I told you guys I was going to finish on time, and I am. So this is really more for the guests. Like what's next? If you don't have a chiropractor or you haven't had your nervous system evaluated in a long time, based on what we just talked about, wouldn't you agree it's probably a good idea to do this on a regular basis, at least once in your life, or once a year? How often do you go to a dentist, right? You go to a dentist for what? Preventatively. Not just if you have a cavity or you need a root canal. The way to evaluate the nervous system, from what we talked about tonight, to make sure that your nervous system is balanced and you're functioning and firing on all cylinders for performance and prevention, is to have the testing done. The thermal scan is NASA space technology. The x-rays, if the thermal scan shows that there are problems, then we usually confirm that with x-rays. When we do the x-rays and the thermal scan and the exam and the consultation and all that on that first visit, if you were to have that done in a hospital, how much do they usually charge for something like that? What do you think? What do you usually leave with a bill with?
10 grand.
10 grand? Yeah. These days, it's not surprising. But for guests, special just for you guys, if you wanted to have this done, I'm happy to do this for you. Sit down with you, do a consultation, get a history, family history, we'll do an exam, check your posture, range of motion, we do the scans, x-rays if we have to do them, that's included. And then I will study everything, and then I'll have a full report for you on a follow-up visit, where I'll explain to you what the findings are. And if there's anything that needs to be done, I'll give you my recommendations. So normally it's $400 or $500 for being here at the workshop as a guest. We do that for only $97. It's a friends and family coupon. All right, so you got to ask for this on the way out. It's a special thing that we give to friends and family only. And the offer's only good for tonight. So if you want to do that, you have to make your appointment. It doesn't have to be for tomorrow, or they'll schedule you within the next couple of weeks. But please don't leave here without making an appointment before you leave if you want to take advantage of that. And that'll give you very specific information as far as your health goes. What's good and what you can work on, extremely valuable, and I'm happy to help you through that. So please see them at the front desk to make that appointment. For those of you who need any kind of supplements or resources, we have them in limited quantities, so get it while you can, while they're on the shelf. And then if you need to any help with any of the blood testing that we talked about, ask them about that or body composition analysis. They're there for you up front to make application with everything that you need. Thank you so much for coming tonight, guys. Love and appreciate you. God bless.